Look at almost any mammal on Earth, a dog, a horse, a chimpanzee, and you'll find the same thing, a thick coat of fur covering nearly their entire body. Then look at yourself. Aside from a handful of specific patches, scalp, eyebrows, armpits, you're essentially naked, and you have been your whole life without ever really questioning why. That's not normal for a mammal. It's actually one of the strangest things about being human, and there's a real, well-supported reason for it. Out of roughly 6,000 known mammal species alive today, the overwhelming majority are covered in dense fur or hair across their entire bodies, for good reason, since fur provides insulation, sun protection, and physical defense all at once. Humans are one of the rare exceptions, sometimes grouped with a short list of other largely hairless mammals like elephants, rhinos, and whales, none of which share much else in common with us. Losing that much fur is a significant evolutionary change, not a minor cosmetic detail, and evolution doesn't typically remove something this broadly useful without a substantial reason driving it. Researchers have even managed to estimate roughly when this happened, using an unexpected method, studying the genetics of skin pigmentation. A 2004 study led by geneticist Alan Rogers analyzed variation in the MC1R gene involved in skin coloring and used the mutation patterns to estimate that human ancestors likely lost most of their body hair somewhere around 1.2 million years ago. That timing lines up closely with Homo erectus, an ancestor known for a taller, more athletic build, well-suited to covering long distances across open, hot landscapes. The most widely supported explanation comes from researchers like Nina Jablonski and Peter Wheeler, and it centers on temperature control. Early humans living on the hot, open savanna needed an effective way to shed excess heat while moving and hunting during the hottest parts of the day. Thick body fur is excellent at trapping heat, which is exactly the opposite of what you want when you're generating enormous amounts of it through sustained physical activity under direct sun. Losing most of that fur, paired with a dramatic increase in sweat glands, would have allowed early humans to cool down far more efficiently than almost any other mammal on the savanna. The scale of this advantage is easy to underestimate. Humans have somewhere between 2 and 4 million eccrine sweat glands distributed across nearly the entire body, a genuinely enormous number compared to other primates. Chimpanzees, by comparison, have a small fraction of that density and rely much more heavily on panting to cool down, a far less efficient method during sustained physical exertion. Combine bare skin with that sweat gland density, and you get a cooling system capable of handling extended activity and heat that would leave most other mammals, including plenty of predators, dangerously overheated. Fur loss doesn't appear to be an isolated change either. A well-known 2004 paper by researchers Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman argued that fur loss was just one piece of a much larger suite of physical changes that all seem to point toward the same purpose: sustained, long-distance running. The same general time period saw the emergence of a longer Achilles tendon, a stabilizing nuchal ligament at the back of the skull, and changes to the hips, legs, and foot arches, all features that show up together specifically in animals built for endurance running rather than short bursts of speed. Fur loss fits neatly into that same package, a body being reshaped, piece by piece, joint by joint, around the ability to keep moving for a very long time without breaking down. It helps to compare this against an animal that stayed furry despite living in the exact same hot environment. Lions, sharing that same African savanna, kept their thick coats, but lions are ambush predators, relying on a short, explosive sprint followed by long stretches of rest and shade. Their bodies were never under pressure to dump heat continuously over a sustained period the way a persistence hunter's would be. The difference isn't about which animal lived somewhere hotter. It's about which one needed to keep working hard in that heat for hours at a time, and which one only needed a few explosive seconds before getting to recover. This isn't purely theoretical either. Some modern hunter-gatherer groups, including certain sand communities in the Kalahari, still practice a technique called persistence hunting, deliberately chasing an animal like a kudu or an antelope during the hottest part of the day, not to outrun it in a sprint, but to keep it moving continuously until it physically overheats and collapses from heat exhaustion, something the animal's own fur-covered body can't recover from fast enough. A human, by contrast, covered in sweat rather than fur, can keep going. That's an almost unbelievable hunting strategy on paper, and it only works because of exactly the physical adaptations this video is describing. If overheating was the whole problem, you might expect every trace of hair to disappear entirely, but scalp hair specifically stuck around, and there's a reasonable explanation for that too. The skull sits directly beneath constant, direct overhead sun exposure in a way the rest of the body doesn't, and the brain inside it is particularly sensitive to overheating. Retained scalp hair may have functioned as a kind of built-in sun shield specifically for the head, insulating the skull from direct solar radiation, while the rest of the body remained bare and free to release heat efficiently through sweat. The remaining patches, armpits, eyebrows, and pubic hair are genuinely less settled territory scientifically. Some researchers propose these areas may have helped disperse pheromones or sent signals relevant to attraction and social communication, since sweat and scent glands are especially concentrated in exactly these regions. Others suggest a more mechanical explanation, reducing friction in areas of the body that experience frequent movement and contact during walking, running, or other physical activity. Neither explanation has anywhere near the same level of research support as the cooling hypothesis for full-body fur loss, and it's worth being upfront that this specific piece of the puzzle remains more speculative than settled fact, more of a reasonable guess than a well-tested conclusion. It's worth noting a couple of other ideas here too, mainly to be clear about what doesn't hold up well. The parasite reduction hypothesis, the idea that less fur meant fewer places for ticks and lice to live and spread disease, has some support as a possible secondary benefit, though it's generally considered less central than the cooling explanation. The so-called aquatic ape hypothesis, the idea that humans lost fur due to a semi-aquatic evolutionary phase, gets a lot of public attention and shows up frequently online, but has very little support within the actual scientific community, and most researchers in this field consider it largely rejected due to a lack of supporting fossil or anatomical evidence. Losing fur also came with real costs, including a much higher vulnerability to sunburn and skin damage, and a new dependence on clothing and shelter that most mammals simply never needed to develop in the first place. This ancient trade-off is still shaping your life in fairly direct ways. It's a significant part of why humans need sunscreen and clothing that a chimpanzee or a wolf simply doesn't, and why sunburn is a uniquely human problem among primates in the first place. But it also explains something genuinely impressive. Pound for pound, humans remain one of the best heat endurance athletes in the entire animal kingdom, capable of outlasting far faster, far stronger animals over long distances in serious heat, purely because of a trade a distant ancestor's body made over 1 million years ago, between a coat of fur and the ability to just keep going. The next time you're sweating through a hot afternoon, it's worth remembering that discomfort is actually a finely tuned survival advantage most of the animal kingdom never got, the direct legacy of a trade your ancestors made over 1 million years ago. That's exactly the kind of hidden thread this channel exists to dig up. If you want more of these, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.